Okay, so the next topic that we are going to study about is electrostatic potential. You have studied about the concept of electrostatic potential in class 10th as well. So, the definition electrostatic potential is work done in moving a unit positive charge from infinity to a given point, and you can also add in the presence of an electric field already present. So from now on we may also name it electric potential. Both are one the same. So electric potential, this is the same concept that you have studied in class 10th. So now through diagram you can explain the concept of potential. Suppose a charge is at infinity and you bring it to a point p dash or p in the presence of another positive charge. This is a unit positive charge which is at infinity. You bring it from infinity to some point p which is near a positive charge q. So in the presence of electric field of positive charge q, you are bringing unit positive charge at point p near to it. Then there will be a repulsive force on unit positive charge due to positive charge q. So in order to overcome that repulsive force, you have to do some work, and that work done is known as electrostatic. So here we are finding the potential due to a point charge. Suppose our charge plus q is placed at origin, and if a unit positive charge means having a magnitude of plus 1 coulomb. Okay, so force on a unit positive charge present at point p dash is this point, then this positive charge q will exert force on unit positive charge, and according to Coulomb's law this force will be 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2, where q1 is q and q2 is 1 coulomb, upon r dash square, where r dash is the distance of charge from the point under consideration, and r dash cap is the unit vector which shows the direction of force. In this way we determine the force on unit positive charge when it is at point p dash. Now if you want to bring the charge from point p dash to another point which is at a distance delta r dash, small distance, means you want to move the unit positive charge from p dash by a small distance delta r dash, then obviously you have to do some work because you are bringing it nearer to the positive charge q, so more repulsion force will be there, and that's why you have to do some work. So that work done is nothing but force into displacement. So here the force acting is already determined, q upon 4 pi epsilon naught r dash square into displacement. Displacement in this case is delta r dash, that's why delta r dash, and the minus sign because displacement is negative if work done is positive. Negative displacement because you are moving it along the negative axis or negative x direction, that's why. So we put the negative sign here because of negative displacement. So this is that work done for only a small displacement delta r dash. If you want to move it all through to point p, or from infinity to point p which is situated at a distance r from the origin where charge q is also there, then you have to integrate with respect to dr dash, because this is only for a small displacement. For total displacement from infinity to point p where the position of p is r, then you have to integrate, limits being from infinity to r, and you are well aware of process of integration, and on integration we obtain the expression minus due to integration is balanced and q upon 4 pi epsilon naught r dash, and we substitute the limits, we put the limits in the equation, so we get the expression. So this gives us the potential at point P, which is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q by r. So V is greater than 0 for q greater than 0, means for a positive charge potential is positive, and for a negative charge q less than 0 potential is also less than 0, that is negative. Next we study about the potential due to a system of charges. Suppose we have a system in which there are charges q1, q2, q3, q4 and q5. We want to determine the potential due to all these charges at point P. So potential at P, here also we what we do is we use principle of superposition, that we will determine the potential due to each of the charges at point P and then take the sum to determine net or total potential due to the system of charges. So potential at P due to Q1, according to the formula for potential, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon, which we have determined yesterday in the last class, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q by r. Now here r1p is the distance of charge q1 from point P. Similarly, due to charge q2, it is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q2 by r2p, and similarly for v3 due to charge q3 and so on. So for finding the total potential, we add up potentials due to individual charges, because 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is common to all, so we take it common. And if we want to write in general form, we can write as summation q by r, qn, where n can be n can vary from anywhere from 1 to any value, 1 to n or whatever values. In this case it is 1 to 5. And rnp is the distance of particular charge from the point P. Now this was for a random distribution of charges. Now if we have a uniformly charged spherical shell, like we were using in the last derivation of application of Gauss law, then the total charge is taken to be present at the center. So if the then the potential at any point outside the shell is given by 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q by r. We have already determined electric field, and similarly we can find potential. And if the radius of shell is r, then potential at its surface is given by q by r. So for a point situated at distance small r from the center, the potential is given by this formula. And the potential at the surface of the spherical shell is this, where capital R is its radius. And inside the shell, electric field is 0. So no work is done in moving the charge. So potential is constant, because no work is done because of the absence of electric field inside the shell, which we have studied in the application of Gauss law, that inside a spherical shell, electric field is 0. That means even if you move a charge inside it, you don't have to do work, because there is no electric field to repel it, so you don't have to do any work. That means potential at each point is constant. That's why no potential difference between any points, 2 points is there. Next, we determine the potential due to an electric dipole. Suppose we are having an electric dipole having equal positive and negative charge separated by a distance 2a. The midpoint of the dipole be point O, and the dipole moment be P. Then the half lengths of dipole till point A from each charge are A each. Now we consider point P having positions from charge plus q r1 and from minus q r2, and r from vector r is the position vector from the center of dipole. So we want to determine the potential due to this dipole at point P, which is the point under consideration. Now from the geometry of the diagram, you can see vector, triangle of vector addition. You see that direction of this vector A is given. It is from negative to positive charge. So the first triangle that we consider in this one, vector A and vector r1 are along the same directions, along the same direction or cyclic order, while vector r is in the opposite order. Okay, so triangle of vector addition says that the sum of vectors which are in the same order, that is r1 plus a, is equal to the vector which is in opposite order. So r1 plus a is equal to r. and from this we can determine vector r1 which is unknown, so it will be r minus a. Similarly, in the other triangle, you see again vector is from negative to positive charge, while so vector a and vector r are along the same order while r2 is along the opposite order. That's why r2 is vector r plus a. So in this way we determine the value of r1 and r2 both. Now according to the rule, the magnitude of r1 which is r minus a is given by r square plus a square minus 2ar cos theta, while that of r2 is given by r square plus a square plus 2ar cos theta. So in this way we see the magnitudes of r1 square and r2 square have been determined. Now the expression for potential, because we want to determine the potential at point P due to the dipole itself. So we will find the potential due to each of the charges at point P and then take the sum of the potentials, because in order to find the total potential due to a system of charges, we have to add up potential due to all the charges. So potential due to plus q charges 1 upon 4 pi epsilon plus q by r1, and that due to minus q charges 1 upon 4 pi epsilon minus q charge by r2. So that's why the negative sign. When you add up, one term is positive, other is negative. That's why the negative sign in between. Now we are simplifying the values of r1 and r2 square. So we take from equation 1, we take r square common. So we have this quantity in the brackets. After taking r square common, and on approximation, for a very great, for r very greater than a, we can neglect the middle term. This term will be very small. When r is very large as compared to a, this term is very small, so we have neglected it. Similarly, for r2, we take r square common and neglect the middle term to get an approximate value. So equations 4 and 5 give us approximate value of r1 square and r2 square. Now from this we can find the values of 1 by r1 and 1 by r2, because we require it in equation 3. So what we have here is r1 square is equal to, from equation number 4, it is r square 1 minus 2a cos theta by r. Now if I take the reciprocal, 1 by r1 square is equal to 1 by r square, and this term will be raised to power minus 1 because I'm taking its reciprocal. Now I want to find 1 by r, so I have to take the square root of the whole expression. That's why 1 by r, taking square root becomes r, and the power becomes power becomes minus 1 by 2. Similarly, for r2 square, 1 by r2 square is equal to 1 by r square into 1 plus 2a cos theta by r raised to the power minus 1 on taking the reciprocal, and or taking square root, because we have to find 1 by r2. It is 2a cos theta by r raised to the power minus 1 by 2, because we are taking the square root, and hence we get these equations, the values of 1 by 1, 1 by 2. Now we put the values from 6 and 7 in equation number 3. We put the value of 1 by r1 and 1 by r2, and when we solve, we see that 1 gets cancelled, and all we have q upon 4 pi epsilon r, 2, because they add up, so 2a cos theta by r. So the 2r and r become r square. Now q into 2a can be written as p. That's why p cos theta upon 4 pi epsilon r square. And p cos theta can be written as P dot R cap, where R cap is a vector having magnitude 1. So when you take P dot R cap, its value is P into 1 cos theta and 4 pi epsilon R square, where theta is the angle between vector P and vector R, which is shown in the diagram. And this is a condition where R is very, very greater than A. We have taken the approximation. Now, if theta is 0 or pi, when theta is 0 or pi, cos 0 or cos pi is 1, plus 1 or minus 1. That's why the value becomes plus minus 1 upon 4 pi epsilon P by R square, because cos theta is either 1, plus 1 or minus 1. So this value. This is an axial point. When theta is 0 means the point P is lying somewhere on the axis of the dipole. That's why theta is 0. Now when theta is 90 degree, it is an equatorial point, and cos 90, cos pi by 2 is 0, so the potential becomes 0. So at equatorial point means on a line perpendicular to axis of dipole, potential is 0.